Before we start our regularly scheduled podcast, I just wanted to tell you some really important announcements that happened after we recorded this podcast, so that's why we have this special announcement here. We got invited to run the Social Engineer Village at DEF CON 21. It's an excellent opportunity for social engineering speeches as well as demos and other things like that. We'll be running the SECTF as well as the CTF for Kids out of that room, in addition to speeches from Jordan Harbinger, Dave Kennedy, and Kevin Mitnick. And Sunday, starting at 11 a.m., we have limited seats for a special guest, Apollo Robbins. Apollo Robbins is a professional pickpocketer. You can check him out at istealstuff.com. He's known as the Gentleman Thief. He's going to be coming in, doing a little bit of Q&A, talking about the psychology of it, maybe even a demo. You're going to definitely want to be there for that show. It's 11 a.m. Sunday of DEF CON. Anyhow, now on to our regularly scheduled podcast.
Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarmed, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Introduction's not needed, been completed so to speak.
Welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 47. That's right. There's no echo in the background because Dave is roaming around the streets of France, eating crepes, looking at fancy art, and once again has missed the podcast again, folks. So you could be disappointed. But we have with us Jordan Harbinger. Jordan, how are you? And Michelle Fincher.
Good morning.
Let's see how pleasant she sounds. Isn't that wonderful? So, Jordan, what's going on, man? How's life?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I haven't slept in a week thanks to Game of Thrones, which I just started watching. And, you know, business is good here at the Art of Charm, which is kind of exciting. We got the whole team in New York right now running some programs. Every year we go there for like a month and then run some programs, and then coming back to LA all cranky and jet lagged. So that's how that works. And then, yeah, for me on the horizon, I finally, you know, got a girlfriend now, which is kind of cool.
Oh, wow. How does that work?
Unusual for me to have that.
How does that work with when you have to go out every night on quote-unquote engagements?
Well, I mean, I don't go out every night on quote-unquote engagements. I'm not a male escort. So.
Oh, really? I thought that...
Yeah.
Oh, man, I thought that's what you did.
Side gig. No, and so like a lot of times the coaching team, you know, will take over a lot of the coaching duties. But she listens to the show. That's how we met. So she kind of gets it.
To the Art of Charm show?
Right. She listens to the podcast, the Art of Charm podcast.
I thought you were going to say she listens to this show, and that's how you met. And I was like, dude, that's awesome.
This show has never gotten anyone a girl.
Come on, that hurts. That really hurts. That I don't even know how to take that show. Take care of my light work.
I would take it as.
I'm sorry. I thought my sound dropped out. Was there a sudden and shocking silence?
There was.
Okay.
There was a sudden and shocking silence because Jordan said that this show has never gotten anyone a girl.
That is shocking, actually.
Yeah.
I'm appalled at our lack of available hookups for Jordan based on our podcast.
Yeah. Whereas for me, this year it's gotten lots of women, but for different reasons. This SECTF was completely filled out. We had so many contestants, it wasn't even funny, and for the first time ever, we had so many women to choose from for the female side of the competition that it was really hard to make the choice, actually. Really hard. But we did it. We did it. We got our 10 males, 10 females, a lot of upset people. Really sorry about that. I really am. But overall, we're doing really, really good. The contestant packets have gone out. They're already starting. So I think that's probably the big news there. Of course, we got to thank all of our... I was going to make a big deal for Dave because he was going to be on. We got to thank all of our sponsors for the SECTF. We got Wombat Security at wombatsecurity.com. They jumped on board helping us sponsor the event. Even going to send some people to DEF CON to help us out there. We also, of course, have Trusted Sec at trustedsec.com, Dave's company. They're sponsoring the SECTF this year. As you know, Dave's always on the podcast, and they'll be in the room helping out. And then we have NetSparker, Mavatuna Security, and their product NetSparker. They decided to jump on board and sponsor us too, which makes the SECTF possible, because these guys are all helping us out with financial help. So we, of course, appreciate that. So let's see, what do we got going on this year with the SECTF? We got a ton of stuff. I mean, we're keeping the same basic format as we did last year, except we really were tight on contestant selection and target selection, which I can't get into too much yet, because they're already out doing their things. So we got some exciting new propositions for that. So you have to come and check it out. DEF CON 21 will be in the same room as we were last year, from what I've been told, which is pretty cool because we're all the way at the end where it's nice and quiet, and we can't be bothered. Then we have the kids SECTF, which Michelle and Amanda will be heading that up. We got some pretty cool ideas that actually one of them spawned from last podcast. Michelle is going to be shooting the children with a Nerf bow and arrow.
Yeah, that's all I'm signed up for. That's my sole responsibility is to...
Oh, no, you got many more.
Is to make the children cry.
Yeah, but that is the best part. I mean, come on. Children will be running towards a box, having to put a stick inside of a small hole in this box, and Michelle will be shooting them with an arrow that is made of Nerf foam with a very hard end. I made my daughter run, and I shot her, and it didn't feel too well. So...
Are you adding ball bearings to the ends of each of the arrows right now?
I wouldn't actually put it past Michelle to do that.
Ball bearings.
You know, like maybe a sharpened stick on the end or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's either that or they go hand to hand with me, and I'll go hand to hand with a 7-year-old any day of the week. So.
Not nice. Parents that are listening to this, that is not true. We will not let Michelle beat your children. Okay, please send them to DEF CON. They'll have an enjoyable time being shot in the head by a Nerf arrow by Michelle. We're actually getting some good sign-ups there, too. So, at first it was a little slow, but we've been promoting it a lot through Twitter and Facebook and our site and stuff, and now our sign-ups are increasing, so we're happy to see that. And of course, we also have our Black Hat training the week before DEF CON, which we got the whole crew, Michelle, Robin, and I will all be training at that Black Hat event. So we are really looking forward to that. Okay, what else do we got going on, Michelle? Anything else we need to mention?
No, nothing other than the fact that all we've been doing is traveling and training, and so I guess life is good. Yeah. Or at least life is busy.
Life is busy. You just came back from the most beautiful city on earth, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yes, where it was 98 and humid.
And that week before, you and I were both in Clarksville, Tennessee, where it was also 100 and humid.
Yes.
And where are we going next? Back to Fayetteville, isn't it?
I'm going back to Fayetteville in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And then I'm in wonderful, sunny Virginia. And then we're all out in Vegas. Wow. Yeah, it has been busy. Lots of training. We're starting to sound like Jordan. Just everything's always sold out and super busy, which I guess is a good problem to have, right, Jordan?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, good to have a brisk biz, man. I feel you. And I wanted to mention that last year at the CTF, one of the guys that really crushed it was Art of Charm guy, and he was like, I learned a lot of this from the AOC training.
Really?
So, yeah, he was one of the guys that got like a major ovation because he just killed it on the phone.
Man, how come you never mentioned that before?
I must have mentioned it before.
Well, I don't remember. That's actually awesome. The connection there. Did he know about the SECTF before, like the Art of Charm, or?
I don't know which one came first. I know he did the training before he did the competition, before he did the CTF, but I don't know which. I think he listened to the show, came to AOC because of the show, came to the Art of Charm because of the show, and then went to the CTF and just like killed it.
Wow, what an interesting connection, huh?
Yeah, very cool. But it makes sense because, when you when you learn this stuff, you don't get frazzled. You can think on your feet because you learn how to banter. Tests and weird things that come back at you don't throw you off. You learn how to keep your cool. Those are all pretty useful when someone's like, wait, who is this? Why are you asking me for this information?
That is true, because I tell you, what happens to the people who are inexperienced all the time is they get their confidence shaken a little bit, and then when they get that like fist in the face, they back down. and a guy who's got the confidence, like what you train him, they come in and they don't get shaken so easily. So they're able to combat that. Man, that's cool.
Yeah.
And if you did say it before, it's still awesome to hear it. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. So if you want to be a kick-ass con man, come to the Art of Charm.
Before you come to the CTF. Wow, is that the sales pitch?
That's the sales pitch is. Yeah. You know what we should do is at the CTF, we should give away like a prize. Should be like some Art of Charm training or something.
Dude, we could do that.
I'd have to clear it with the team, but I think that would be super cool.
Now here's the only problem: we got like 10 women in the competition, and some of them are really like anxious to kick some male butt this year. So what happens if a woman wins? Because you don't do women classes, right?
No, we have phone coaching for women, but like we don't have classes for women. I guess the problem is, I've got to pay my coaches healthily for phone coaching for women. So I mean, I guess we could give that away, but it's not as cool as being like you get a free boot camp, being like you get to hop on Skype with somebody. That's not as fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Like that's kind of a crap prize, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, hey, as a prize, you get to jump on Skype later.
Yeah, you get to jump on Skype and talk to Jordan. Hey, they might actually like that. And then we could say, look, Jordan, we got you women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be.
And then you'll be able to say, see, the show does give you giggles for people.
Yeah. That's not exactly what I'm looking for. So I guess maybe we won't go that route. But yeah, if it was an all-guy competition, that might be a really cool prize. But I agree with you now. Because this year, tell you, we got some women who actually joined forces that do this for a living. And it seems like a lot of the women that signed up were sitting there last year, heard all of the calls, and are coming in to seek vengeance for womankind over the whole earth.
That'll be pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to this year's competition, and we did some serious target selection. Sat with the EFF lawyers, which we got to mention them too because we love those guys, and sat through the target selection and made sure we weren't doing anything that's going to get us in Guantanamo. And
yes, the Skype call that led to Guantanamo.
Yeah, exactly. Because now, as we know, I mean, Skype. That article just came out yesterday. Skype gave their back door to the NSA. Before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was an article yesterday in the paper that I guess even before they sold to Microsoft, Skype has a back door that they gave to the NSA. So for all you know, all your Skype calls are also being logged.
I'm sure they are. That's awesome. There's people at the NSA who are like super charming now because they listen to all my coaching.
So they get free training.
Yeah, they get free training. You know what? That's kind of crappy. I don't like that.
Yeah, you should send them a bill.
Yeah, I will. I'll be like, this is for 8,000 hours of phone coaching. Government rate though. So
yeah, we should do that too. We should just start sending NSA a bill. Dear NSA, since you have been tapping our calls, you are getting free training. Please pay us at this address. Yeah, that won't go over too well. I'm sure on your next flight to Korea, you may be rejected re-entry into the U.S.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, last time I went, they knew I came back, and they were like, whatever.
They don't really care. Have you ever applied for the GOES program? That easy re-entry card thing. So
like frequent traveler?
Yeah.
No, I have not. I'm guessing they'd be like, eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, where do you frequently travel to? North Korea. And they'd be like, all right, nice try, Joker. Where do you really go?
I just got rejected for that myself.
Did you really?
Yeah. My wife.
They were just like, you just go to too many weirdos places.
I don't know. I don't go to
home.
North Korea. I don't understand. Everywhere I go is not an enemy of America, so I'm not really sure. I tried to
France. This is America.
Yeah. How dare you go to France?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Really?
I don't know.
They denied it. Is it because your wife is foreign or something? I mean,
no, she got approved. My wife and daughter got approved.
That's hilarious.
I got denied. So when we go to the airports next time, they're going to be flying through the lines. I'm going to be waiting in that line while they're out there in the car. Like, come on already.
It's funny because that really sucks for them because there's like no point when the person that you travel with all the time doesn't have it.
That's what my wife said, and I'm like, you know what? I paid $100 for this. You're getting it. and you're going to use it at least once, just because,
Right.
just because of the principle. And I'm going to argue it and fight it and call my friends at the DHS and find out why the heck that happened. But anyhow, way off topic. That's one of the things we get emailed about all the time. People are complaining. You guys spend too much time talking to each other.
I agree.
And I say to them, too bad. But I guess we could speed it up, So our guest today is a very famous magician and comedian, Mac King. So you may have heard of Mac King. You've probably seen him. If you haven't seen him live out in Vegas, you may have seen him on the David Letterman show. He's been on a few other late-night TV shows. But he has a couple of his own shows out in Vegas, and he's been featured in a bunch of different acts out there. So we're going to get him on, talk to him about a little bit about what he does, how he does it, and of course what we can learn from it from a social engineering angle. So let's see if we can get Mac on the phone now. Well, we have our guest with us, Mr. Mac King, and nice to have you on the show, Mac.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
So maybe you could just tell our listeners a little bit about what it is that you do and how you got involved in magic and comedy mixed together.
No, I can't tell you. It's kind of secret.
It's a secret.
Yeah. Actually, it's a magic and comedy show. It's like I call it kind of comedy sleight of hand. There's no big production value, no boxes and dancing ladies and fishnets, no wild tigers. It's kind of just me and my suit.
Yeah, you have a lot of plaid suits, I take it.
I do have a lot of plaid suits.
How many plaid suits do you have?
How many do I own? Maybe 10 or 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah, because I scoured the internet for videos of you, and it seems like you have a different plaid suit on every time.
Yeah, they wear out. Initially I started by wearing, I pulled a suit out of my grandfather's attic. I actually talk about that in the show, but and like most of the things, there's some truth to it. I pulled a suit out of my grandfather's attic and wore it, and people seemed to think it was funny or interesting, and I actually went through a couple of his suits, and then they were gone. There were no more in the larder, and so I started having them made. So the ones I use now are like custom made, but they're kind of all still patterned on the original one from my grandfather. So to clarify, I come out. It's just me, but I'm really going for really strong magic and big laughs all at the same time, which is, I think, what sets me apart from other comedy magicians. I think over the spectrum, it's kind of either one or the other. It kind of takes precedence. Either those guys are really funny or the magic is really strong. But I'm really trying to combine both.
And how did you get started in this? How was this something that you said, hey, I'm going to grow up and be a magician and a comedian at the same time?
Well, it's funny. I was interested. I think a lot of kids go through a little phase when they're young, where they learn a trick or two. Both my grandfathers knew some magic tricks and taught me a trick or two when I was a kid, and then I just kind of kept my interest up. And when I first started, you kind of do what you see on TV or what the stereotype is when you're a kid. And the stereotype for me was like the mysterious guy with a mustache and a top hat and a cape and, sort of greasy. And so I kind of started like that, but over the course of time, for me, I think the thing that makes a magic show, any show interesting, is how much you get to know who's doing it and what you can know about them. And the more of yourself that you can put into the show, the better. So over the course of time, because I feel like I'm sort of a funny person, that started to creep in, and less of the mysterious and more of the comedy. And when I first started doing magic for a living in the early '80s, comedy clubs were starting to spring up around the country, and so those were a venue that I kind of tapped into. And so I got to see, I started like as a middle act, not as a headliner. You don't really get to start as a headliner, but I started as a middle act, so I got to work with a lot of great comedians, and sit in the back of the room while I was getting ready to go on, or actually finished when I was finished, and watch these guys, ply their trade. And in that environment, in a comedy club, a lot of times, the people who run the club aren't even in the room when you're working. They're in their office, counting the money or figuring out how they're going to pay their bills or whatever. And so, but they can hear the laughter through the walls, and so they're kind of judging you on the amount of laughs you get, not how much your show fools people. So I started trying to strengthen the laughter. Everybody in my family's funny, and I'm kind of the least funny person in my family. But that's that's kind of a theme in my family. So it was kind of more natural for me to be funny than not funny.
Right on. And you cut off your finger once during your performance and just kept going, huh?
I cut off my finger once. I'm staring at my left hand right now, where there are a number of little scars. I do a sort of a weird version of the typical magician's rope trick, but it kind of gets out of hand. And I've done it for so long. I mean, literally since I was about 15 years old, I started doing this trick, and it's kind of evolved over the years into what it is now. But I've done it for so long that I can kind of do it without thinking about it. And one of the things that I'm doing when I'm doing the rope trick is there's so much audience participation in my show, and I open with this rope trick. And so when I'm doing the rope trick, one of the things I'm doing in addition to the rope trick is kind of looking over the front few rows and trying to figure out who I'm going to use for the next trick or two, for audience participation. And I'm looking for people with expressive faces and, people who I feel like the audience will relate to. And so I'm not actually looking at the ropes or the scissors, and I have these really sharp scissors that I use in the show. And so I have cut myself a few times, and one time in particular, I actually snipped off the end of my left. That's the noise it made in my head, like a little cartoon noise. I don't think it actually made that noise.
Yeah. That's horrible.
My thumb, shot onto I was working in a nightclub in Charlotte, North Carolina. I remember vividly that night. And this little piece of skin, little piece of my flesh, popped off onto the table in the front row, and I put my finger over the end of my thumb, jeez, and I lifted my finger off, and and there was no blood, and I thought, I just cut off a very little bit, and it's not even going to bleed, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, blood just started, just whoo-ah, and now I'm like, hey, so I kind of finish the rope trick. I get through that, there's blood all over the rope and on my shirt. I get through the rope trick, and I say to the audience, normally at this point, I would get a woman up from the audience to help with my next trick. But under the circumstances, I think it would be better if there were a nurse. Is there a nurse? The audience. And so a woman says, I'm a nurse, and she comes up on stage, and she kind of looks at my thumb, and she kind of takes over. She becomes, in charge all of a sudden, and she steps between me and the microphone and says, there's a bar in the back of the room, and she addresses the bar. She says, please send up your first aid kit and a shot of vodka. And I'm thinking, I don't really drink. But that was an anesthetic, like a cleanser. And so she had me dip my thumb down in a shot glass of vodka.
That had to hurt.
And it was like, speaking of cartoon, it was like a cartoon. I felt like steam shot out of my ears. Tex Avery cartoon. And then she bandaged me up and sat down. And then she did help me with the card trick after she'd taken care of the first aid thing. And I got the rest of the show. And I go up to the club was in the hotel where I was staying, and my wife was traveling with me at the time. I go in the room, and she's like, "How was that?" And I said, "Well, fine. I just cut my thumb off. I need to go to the hospital." She thinks I'm kidding at first, and then she realizes I'm serious. Well, you got to go to the hospital. Let's go. I'll drive. And I said, "Well, yes, we should go to the hospital, but I got to do the second show first." So I had a show that night. So I got through that, and I'm trying to leave, and this guy is like tugging on my coattails, as I'm trying to leave, telling me how good I was, and you always like to hear that. But I also, my wife is waiting for me at the valet downstairs, and I'm like, "Yeah, thank you very much." "No, you were great. I just wanted to tell you, I love the show. Thank you very much." "No, I'm serious. I was here for the first show, and I thought it was so great. I came back for the second show." "Oh, thank you very much. Well, I just wanted to say I was a little disappointed in the second show." "Oh, you were? Sorry about that. But I'm glad you came." And no, the second show, you didn't do my favorite thing that you did in the first show. That part where you cut off your thumb, I thought that was the best thing in the show.
He thought it was part of the show.
Yeah. So that's my little cutting my thumb off story.
Well, here's the thing, Mac. No excuses. You have 2 thumbs and 2 shows a night. What was the problem?
Yeah, that's right. Why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah, you don't have to write it out. You can make it happen.
Yeah, where's
like a champion.
Where's your commitment?
Yeah.
Where's your commitment to your art, Mac? We're disappointed.
Yeah.
So every time I talk to a comedian, they always have a story like starting off very difficult. You go to these small comedy clubs and you really take a risk. Like I personally, even with what I do for a living, having to be in front of strangers all the time, standing up in front of an audience and telling jokes where they may boo you off stage or heckle you, it just seems like something that would bring me a ton of fear. How did you manage that? How did you get past that portion of fear?
It's funny. I get nervous all the time still. I've done, I don't know how many shows. Right now, the schedule's 10 a week, 48 weeks a year. But, and I've been doing that for 13 years. And when I first started, doing it for a living, when I was in college, I worked in this place in the summer, 21 shows a week, 3 shows a day, 7 days a week for a few months. And, but I still get nervous, depending on who's, if there's somebody special in the audience or if it's a TV show or whatever. But for the most part, what I get nervous about is just not doing well. The heckling or whatever, that's just part of the deal. And I have young people ask me all the time, how do you get over stage fright or what do you? And I think there's something in some people where they just have to do it. It's not like this is something that it's not just that I want to do it or that I love doing it. Both of those are the case, but it's also, I feel like I almost have to do it. There's something in me that just craves it. And so that little bit of, anxiety about how people are going to react, I've done it enough now too that I know, there's still a spectrum. There's still shows where people react less favorably and more favorably, but that's not a big worry for me. I know I'm going to have some crappy shows every now and again, but I can sure live through that. That's okay. The highs outweigh the lows by astronomical amount.
Hey, Mac, you made an interesting comment about picking your people for audience participation.
Interesting comments.
You made one interesting comment.
Oh, ouch!
One interesting comment.
Ouch!
Which one was that?
About cutting your thumb off. No.
I want to hear again about the blood. No, actually, you had said something about you look out into the audience and you sort of pick people based on certain things about them that you feel like would make them interesting to participate or appealing in some way. Can you give us sort of an overview of how you make that decision or what kinds of qualities you look for? Is it a type of person?
Of
Is it whether or not they're smiling?
To me, that's the most important thing that I do. There's so much audience participation in my show, and over the course of, depending on the venue, but over the course of, 80 minutes or whatever my show is that day, 70, 80 minutes, there's a lot of audience participation. And because the tricks aren't giant, big production numbers, the tricks are, smaller scale. One of the things, one of the things that makes them play to, 1,000 people is the audience reaction, the reaction of the audience member that's on stage with me. And so that's really important to me, how they react. And the bigger and broader they react, the bigger that trick plays to the back of the room. And so, what I'm looking for, is somebody with kind of an open face, who really seems open to new experience, who really seems to register delight in their face and eyes, and not hunched over, open body posture, and somebody that seems like they're having a really good time, and that would translate to the people watching. And so, it's eyes and posture and just general body language that seems like, hey, that person's having a great time, and I can tell from a distance. Does that make sense?
Is this something you picked up, or is this something you took training in, and being able to look at something?
No, I didn't pick it. There's no, I guess there's probably training, but it's just kind of something that over the course of time, I still make wrong decisions. I still get people, that are absolutely wrong with a trick, but for the most part, over the course of years, I've gotten way better at it too, and I've realized what happens, and it's just kind of, it's almost like evolution as opposed to design. I think it's sort of, if you do it enough, you kind of naturally get good at it.
So, one of the other things you mentioned, I just got to back up for a second. That's because that thing, what Michelle picked up on, that's really interesting to us.
Well, it's interesting to me. I have my favorite story about that. If you want another, there's no blood in this one, but.
Well, Jordan and I will like it, but Michelle might not. She likes blood.
Yeah, I know.
That's sad. Really sad.
Every so often it'll happen that somebody that I'm working for, somebody who's paying the bill, will say, "Hey, you need to get this person involved in the show." And I, for the most part, it's fine, but it's better if I get to pick. But years ago, I was doing a club in Knoxville, Tennessee, and a guy, the owner of the club, called me in the afternoon and said, "Hey, I'm bringing a date. This is our first date. I'm bringing a date to the show, and I'd like you to get her up on stage." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't. I don't want to be committed to that because it's the first. This person would have been the first person on stage from the audience, and sometimes if the first person is bad or has a terrible time, then it's really hard to get somebody else, for the next couple of weeks." But again, he's paying the bills, so I say yes. And so they're sitting in the front row that night, and I'm doing this rope trick that I was talking about, and I'm looking out at her, and I cannot really, her face is always in the shadows, and I can't really see her well. And so when I get her up on stage, it's like, oh, geez, she is the absolute wrong person. Just the meekest little mouse of a woman, kind of, turned in on herself, and I'm cursing this guy. His name was Barry. I'm cursing Barry, for getting me into this. And she's going to be up there for 7 or 8 minutes, and it's not going to be as good as it could be. And one of the things that I do with the first thing, I've done the rope trick. I throw the rope out to her, and I have her hold it up, and then she comes on stage holding the rope, and I say to her, "We're going to do the Houdini Challenge naked rope escape. I want you to take off your clothes and tie me up." And I take the rope from her and say, "You don't have to tie me up." And so it gets a pretty good laugh as a rule. And so but I'm thinking to myself, when you're on stage, so much just runs through your head that, that don't say, but you've got like two conversations going. You've got the conversation you've got with the audience, but you've also got the conversation with yourself inside your head as to what you're going to do next and how stuff is going to play, and trying to get rid of the mistake you made 5 minutes ago and not think about that or whatever. There's lots of inner dialogue in addition to the outer dialogue, and so I'm thinking to myself, when she comes on stage, that if I tell this poor woman to take off her clothes and tie me up, that she's going to cry. She just seems like I said, the meekest little person. And so then I think to myself, well, I hope she does cry, or I ruin Barry's date. that'll mess him. It's like that'll serve him right for making me get her on stage. So I say to her, take off your clothes and tie me up. And boom, whoop, her dress. She flips her dress off, and she's standing there naked.
What?
And no, she's naked on stage, and Barry, the club owner, is standing in the front row with a camera taking photos of me and this stripper that he has hired as a joke on me.
Oh,
The
wow.
audience was howling,
That's awesome.
and I was howling, and it was just fantastic. So that's my favorite audience participation gone wrong or right, however you want to look at it.
Wow. That is. So he were you guys friends before, or was he just like, I'm going to get you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd worked his club a few times before, and he just decided that he was going to play this joke on me, and it was just fantastic. I mean, I got completely suckered in. So, and I so wish. I mean, I heard that the club actually, unfortunately, closed about 6 months later. I heard that the next week those photos were on the wall of the club. He had like a little series of 2 or 3 photos on the wall of the club of that incident, and then the club closed like 6 months later. So I never was back there, and I sure would love to have those photos. I mean, I know that they existed at one point, but I haven't
Barry, if you're out
been
there
able to track him
listening,
down or those photos.
Yeah. Michelle's making a call to Barry,
yeah.
Yeah.
You're out there listening,
Barry
Barry.
Rosen, R-O-S-E-N. Barry, if you're listening,
I'm sure your wife
love those
would.
photos.
I'm sure your wife would love those photos hanging in the house.
Yes, framed nicely.
Well, you don't know my wife if you think she wouldn't.
Well, that's interesting. Now we'll have to talk about that later on. So I have a question, because like Michelle picked up this part about your picking out nonverbal body language, which is something we talk a lot about. The other thing I was thinking of when you were saying, you just said you do 10 shows a week, 48 weeks a year. Now, something we call pretexting, which is like not just putting on an act, but making someone believe that you are who you say you are. And part of that is having that general excitement and believability that you would have if you were doing this naturally. How do you keep yourself believable and natural doing something 10 times a week? I would imagine it's the same show, until you write new material.
It's kind of the same show, but I mean, but it's also not the same show because there's so much audience participation and so much of the human element in there. And one of the things that I really feel like I bring to the table is a genuine interaction with the audience. So I'm really, I feel like I'm a good listener, if that makes sense, and a good observer. So people who are on stage with me, I'm genuinely listening. A lot of times I think, acts or performers, if they use people from the audience in their show, they're like just a prop. And it doesn't matter what that person does, the show's going to be the same no matter what. And, to me, one of the things I'm striving for is to give people an experience that they feel like that no one else has ever had. So even though the tricks, I've got a destination I'm trying to get to, the audience doesn't know what that destination is, and I'm trying to sort of direct people toward that destination, I guess, but also I'm trying to really leave as much open as possible for them to react or do stuff that takes it in a slightly different direction, and then I kind of nudge it back, up on the road toward the final destination. So there's a lot of stuff. I get people who come to the show over and over again, and that's one of the things that they say is that it's different every time, and because of the people who come up to help and the things that they do, or people in the audience say or do, or the way they react, or mistakes that I make. I'm just really trying to be, for lack of a better term, and this sounds a little trite, but just be in the moment. And I think that's what makes it easy for me to do the same tricks over and over again without getting bored. Is I'm really trying to provide that experience, and I'm really trying to listen to what people do and react genuinely to what happens.
So do you recycle the material that you made over the last couple decades, or is it really improv? Like the audience seems to like one area of joking that you have, so you just go in there and make stuff up as you go?
Well, it's a combination. It's not wholly either of those things. There's a lot of things that have a lot of stuff that happens that has happened in the past, but doesn't happen every show. There are things that happen once every, I don't know, let's say for example, once every month. But it has happened in the past, and either I was hilarious when it first happened, or I thought about it afterwards and said, hey, if that ever happens again, here's what I will do. And then hoping that it happens again if I have something great or something that I think is great, but also still new stuff happens all the time, and I react to that, and if it's good, then I kind of put that in the filing system in my brain, and if it happens again, then I've got a bit.
How do you handle when there's like a mistake on stage where it's maybe you drop something and it breaks, or you have some sort of prop and it's like, not working? What do you do? You're sitting there holding some little magical device, and then it's like, out of batteries or whatever.
It depends on what happens, but I guess there's kind of two overall ways. If I can handle it so that no one knows, so that there's still some sort of successful outcome, that's what I like to do. But also, I found that if that's not possible, people appreciate honesty. If I say, well, that didn't work. If it's obvious that something terrible has happened, that's one of the advantages, I guess, of having a comedy act.
Right.
I forget. It says it has a bit in their show where they say, this is a comedy magic act. If it fools you, it's magic, and if it doesn't fool you, that's the comedy part.
Yeah. So basically, you either hide it or you own it. Like you either make it so nobody notices, or you just own it.
That's a good way to put it. Yes, I hide it or I own it. I like that very much. I'm going to be using that from now on when I talk about it.
Oh, he trademarked that, by the way. So
but I'll give you a license on it.
Yeah.
Hide it or you own it. You're right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, exactly. Now I own it. Yeah, exactly. That's great. I like that. That's the same thing you do in my business, where if like you're talking to people, in our business as well, I would imagine, if you're talking to people and something goes wrong, you can't really pretend like it's not supposed to happen. So you just go, yep, I just fell down the stairs. Did not do that on purpose.
Whatever. I just dropped the thing that was supposed to have disappeared in full view here.
Yeah, exactly.
And it sounds like from your previous story with your thumb that you do it so well that people just think it's part of the act anyway. You cut your thumb off, and some guy wants you to redo that because he thinks it's part of your act.
Yeah, that's part of the act, right? So yeah, when that happened, I was trying to go with the moment and make jokes. When she had me stick my thumb down in the vodka, and it was like I forget. I think I said water to wine, my greatest trick. And then I set it down on the table where right in the front there, and I said, thank you for guarding my piece of flesh, and as a little thank you, I would like you to have this Bloody Mary. So, I mean, I was just trying to make jokes through the whole thing.
That's really disgusting.
Yeah, it is disgusting, but it's
kind of funny.
But I think that's why the guy thought it was part of the show.
Yeah, because not a normal person. Well, I shouldn't say you're not normal. I don't mean it that way, but normally, maybe I'll word it that way. Normally, a person, when they cut the tip of their thumb off, would probably take a few minutes, off and not joke about the tip of their thumb that's laying on a table, something to that effect. I would think. So when you're at home, do you prep yourself for these kind of shows in some way? Is there some way that you do you get into a character, or is what you do on stage, is it really just you?
Well, I think it's kind of me, but heightened a little bit. I mean, most of the time, everybody's kind of boring, really, most of the time. But there are parts of me that I kind of feel like I can turn on when I'm on stage and turn off when I'm not. But it all stems from me and my sensibilities and the way I look at the world and kind of the experience I want to give people when they pay to see me.
Now, this has got nothing to do with human interaction, but I think the first time that I saw you was on the David Letterman show, and you had vomited up a live goldfish.
Whoa!
Or so it appeared.
Vomited is a strong word.
Okay. Let's rephrase that. You had spat out a live goldfish after it appeared that you chewed up a goldfish, which then you taught us was just a piece of carrot, and then you spat out a live goldfish. Just the whole thing was a little bit nuts. After you made the live goldfish appear on the end of a string, if I remember the sequence properly. I'm not sure.
That's right. Good.
Okay.
That's a good memory, yeah.
So you do this whole bit with a live goldfish. Where did you possibly come up with the concept that you were going to actually use a live goldfish in the show? I mean, I know that has nothing to do with human interaction, but I saw that and I'm like, okay, this is nuts. There's so many things that can go wrong with a live fish in your mouth.
Well, I mean, stuff has gone wrong. I mean, I'm not giving away anything by saying that at some point I sneak a fish into my mouth. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
At some point I secretly put a fish in my mouth. Pretty soon before it's spit out. I mean, it turns out fish don't live very long in your mouth.
Yeah.
I think they probably live longer flopping around on the carpet.
Yeah, mouth's not a great place for a fish, right?
I think that's right. I mean, probably there's a lot of acid, and it's it's not. It doesn't seem to be a nurturing environment for a fish. But anyway, I have so it's not in there very long. But I sneak a fish into my mouth, and one of the first times I did that, actually it was the very first time that I had anybody on stage with me. When I first started doing the trick, I don't know why I didn't realize that I should have somebody there on stage. I just had the glass, it's like a wine goblet that filled with water that I spit this fish into. And I just had it sitting on a stool and picked it up and spit the fish into it. And, it took me a little while. I was kind of an idiot to realize, before I realized, hey, if somebody's holding this glass and their face is right there by my face and they're reacting to this fish emerging from my lips, that's better.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, so that's better. But the very first time that I got somebody on stage to do this trick, I don't know whether I was, nervous because there was somebody right there next to me, and so I was rushing my secret movements or whatever. But I put the fish into my mouth with a little too much force, and it kind of went down into my throat.
Oh, no.
And so now this poor little fish is stuck in my throat, and I'm trying to get it up.
Yeah.
Instead of just swallowing, I'm trying to trying kind of.
So you did vomit a fish out of your mouth.
Well, as a matter of fact, yes. So this guy's standing next to me, holding this glass, and I'm making these disgusting retching noises, and I start to vomit a little bit into my hand.
Oh.
I put my hand up in a little bit of, and then I realize, more is going to come up than the fish, and more is going to come up than I can actually hold in my hand. So I have a little suitcase to my right behind where the guy is standing holding the glass. I have a little suitcase with props in it, and so I lean over into the suitcase and just vomit.
That's so disgusting.
Well, there's my sandwich and a poor little fish flopping around in it.
That's so disgusting.
In my suitcase. And the guy standing right in front of it, and he looks over his shoulder down into the suitcase and just, and so this is one of the times when I did not own it.
Yeah.
I have extra fish. I won't say how or when, but I have extra fish just in case there's some sort of fish accident.
Yeah.
Did this particular fish in question survive?
This particular fish in question did in fact survive.
Oh, excellent!
In a pool of vomit.
While I was getting the secret, the extra fish, I did not want to use. I could have just snagged that fish in my hand, the flopping fish in the vomit, and used him again. But I didn't. I
think there's something morally wrong with putting a fish that you just vomited and maybe covered in such back in your mouth.
Well, yeah. I figured he'd been through enough already.
Yeah. Yeah, and he may be traumatized. He's needing therapy at this point.
So I get him safely to a place where he's not in vomit, but in water. And and from that water, I snag another fish. And I go on with the trick as if I hadn't vomited. And after my show, this was not where I am. This was maybe 14 years ago. Before I was at Harrah's, where I am now, I was at a little casino called the Maxim, which has since closed. But I was working there at the Maxim, and after the show, I don't even go backstage. At the end, I exit through the audience, and I'm out in the lobby chatting with people and signing T-shirts and talking. And so I don't mention that I vomited during the show. I go out, and no one mentions that I threw up.
Wow.
And I talk to the people as they're leaving, and no one says anything. So, so I guess either they were polite enough, but I can't imagine that the entire audience was polite enough not to mention it. But maybe they just didn't know what was going on, and so...
Yeah, maybe they thought it was part of the show.
Oh, it was odd. The guy the entertainment director of the casino, a friend of mine who was a comedian who was also working in that hotel, was sitting in the back of the room when I did this. He had gone out. He was howling. I could hear him laughing because he'd seen the show a number of times and knew, I think, what was going on. He had gone to the office of the entertainment director saying, I think Mac just vomited on stage. So that as I'm talking to people as they're leaving, the entertainment director comes out and he kind of whispers in my ear, did you vomit in there? Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. So nobody ever said a word about it. So,
man, you have some crazy stories.
That doesn't stop the show.
Yeah, I don't even understand how that wouldn't... I guess if you can cut your thumb off and puke up a fish, I guess you can probably do a show through almost anything.
No, and this all shows...
I mean, if you've lived... the more of those little stupid things that you live through, the less nervous you're going to be about audience reaction and how, so many things have happened, and everybody's lived. So
and this really does show Mac's level of consistency and commitment, and the importance of how the show must go on, and how really little it impacts your target if you sort of keep doing as you're doing.
Well, yeah, that's right. And I just want to throw in a number of years ago. This was after I'd cut off my thumb. David, I sold not the rope trick I do in my act, but a different one that I came up with. I sold it to David Copperfield. He did that in his show for a while, and at one point he cut off part of his finger. And, I just want to say, I want to go on record as saying he canceled the rest of the show and the next show that day.
So do you rub that in his face when you see him?
What's that?
Do you rub that in his face when you see him?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know, you hold up your thumb and be like, yeah, real man right here.
Probably 12 years ago or more, but I've kind of lorded that over him.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no point. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. It's not going to expire.
No, I mean, come on. It's a real manly thing to cut your thumb off and continue on the show. So,
That's right.
You know, I mean, I would be rubbing that in someone's face too.
For sure.
You know, one of the things that Michelle just brought up, which is interesting for us, because in our industry too, we get hired to test people's human security systems in their company. So many times we'll try to gain entrance to a building either physically or through the phone or things like that. And one of in our industry, probably one of the biggest things that happens is if someone gets called out or caught, something that shouldn't have happened happens, fear and nerves take over, and then you don't remain consistent with your storyline, which you would if it was true, like you have just proven through your act. And that change in your storyline is what makes people go, something's weird with this guy. So
yeah. Even if they don't know what it is, they know something's off. And
right.
That. There are lots. I mean, I think the correlation between what you do and what I do is very strong in that area. I mean, I've got all these secret little things I'm doing, and if there's something inconsistent in my movement or the way I talk or the way where I look or how I interact with people, they may not know exactly what I did, but they know I did something.
Yeah.
So I raise some suspicions, and that's, what I'm trying to do is not raise any suspicions. Even if people don't know exactly what I did, if they know I did something, it's almost the same as if they know what I did. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. And
it doesn't matter if they know what I did. If they know I did something, then I've failed. And
that's really the thing for us now. A little bit different. We're not on stage in front of people, and we kind of want to blend in more. But when nerves kick in, and you let the fear and nerves take over your thinking ability, then you take an action that's probably going to call you out and say, I don't belong here. Or, in your case, that shouldn't have happened. But by constantly going through it, it's kind of amazing. And seeing how it works even on a whole audience. Right? You have a whole audience, maybe hundreds of people or more staring at you. Something that should never have happened happens. And you just consistently go with the show, and people think it's part of the act. And so that same principle applies. Do you find that redirection is very important in your field?
Tell me what you mean by redirection.
Like you want to, and I'm not looking for the secret, so don't think I'm asking.
I don't have that many secrets, really.
You're going to go slip the fish in your mouth, and let's say it's in your right hand. You don't want people to look at your right hand, so you start doing something with your left hand and making people look at that, and that's when you slip the fish in. That kind of redirection, so people are looking somewhere else.
In Magic we call it misdirection, but I think that's not a good term. I like redirection. That's good. I mean, I always just think of it as direction instead of misdirection. I'm not trying to get them not to look at something. I'm trying to get them to look at something. I want to be specific.
That's
so. And one of the big things for me is my face. If I have my head tilted down or something, if I need to get away with something with my right hand or my left hand or whatever, if I need to get away with something sneaky, if I hide my face, my full face, if I tilt my head down or to the side, if they don't get a full-on look at my face, and then I turn my face directly to the audience as I'm saying something, it's almost impossible not to look me in the eye.
Uh-huh.
And so then that's, so if I, like for instance, I do this thing where I sneak a big rock into my shoe. and I take off my shoe, and I dump a tiny little, actually it's a fig Newton that comes out. A fig Newton, I tip my shoe up and a fig Newton drops out. And I watch the fig Newton fall onto the stage. And then when I look up at the audience, my head's tilted down to the stage, so watch this fig Newton hit the stage. When I tilt my head up to look at the audience and acknowledge, a little after, everybody shifts their gaze from that fig Newton on the stage to my face, and then bang. If you watch this 2 or 3 times, I've worked with a couple of neuroscientists at the Barrow Institute in Arizona, doing eye tracking experiments with that very trick, it's just consistent watching people, their eyes just like a laser go from that fig Newton that's fallen on the stage to my eyes. And, you don't see me I just really, literally just shove this rock into the shoe. And if you're looking right at the rock, you might not actually see the rock, but I did something.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I'm trying to cover up. Like you said, I'm trying to, any little suspicious things, I'm trying to cover them with layers of misdirection. And so, yeah, that's a big secret for magicians, or at least for me, looking people, hiding my face for a second and then bringing it into view. A big movement with my left hand covers a tiny movement with my right hand. There are all sorts of little things like that, but you can't make it blatant. If you make it blatant, then it's like what you were saying before. Something's inconsistent. I don't know what he did, but I know he just distracted me for a reason. And you can't make it seem like a distraction. You have to make it seem like just you did this and they followed the natural course of the world, but that enables me to get rid of stuff, or get rid of a secret action that would go unobserved.
Yeah, that's a really valuable piece of information that you just shared, especially with the face, the whole face idea, because it is true. People always want to. That's the thing that attracts.
Yeah, they want to be polite,
right?
But also they're looking for clues from you too, and one of the places you get the most clues from people is looking at their face. And so, I think that's kind of hardwired into you to pay attention to what people, to their faces.
Right, and by hiding it for a second and then showing your face, you make it like, hey, here I am, take a look over here.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful piece of information. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so we like to call that redirection, because you want someone to redirect their focus where you want them to direct it, and not on the trick that you're doing, or for us on maybe the camera hidden in our pen, or the USB key that we're dropping on the floor, or whatever it is that we're doing at that point in time. You want them to look where you want them to look. Very interesting. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting trying to get 1,000 people to look in the same spot, or
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, Mac, is how have you ever been called out? Has anyone ever caught you? How often do you think that happens?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably more often than I think, because people are polite. But you can tell when the audience reacts genuinely to a surprise. If that rock drops out of my shoe and bang hits the stage, and people are like, "Holy, oh, pardon me, oh my goodness, where did that rock come from?"
Well, it's like your fish on the end of a string. Literally, I watched it. I got the video on YouTube, and I'm trying to figure out where the heck the fish comes from on the end. Don't say it, but it doesn't. It just kind of appears.
Yeah. There's nothing secret really going on. Well, there is kind of something secret going on right there, but not at that point. When that fish appears on the line, that's kind of the direction. I'm focusing all attention right there. When that fish appears on the end of the line, there's other secret stuff going on with me, closer to my body on the end of that string. And
but that's where the focus is, at the end of that string.
What's that?
That's where the focus is, though, is at the end of that string.
Yeah, that's right. The focus is there on the end of that string, and I get to do, something sneaky away from that area. And so, I mean, so that's the idea. I mean, that's kind of the perfect thing, is that, something happens that pulls your attention that is already magical, and then you can do something else to set up the next thing while that magic bit is happening.
That really is something that we use a lot, too, so it is interesting how similar our practices are. You're just doing it with a lot of people standing in front of you and for a wholly different purpose, but really interesting. Are there any, a lot of our listeners like to read books on this kind of stuff. Are there any books that I don't even know if that's possible, any books you'd like to recommend, or things that maybe helped you when you were looking at these particular aspects, the things that you mentioned so far that you do?
Man, I mean, there's some really great magic books, but I mean, I'm trying to think of, sort of more general interest books, I mean, that aren't specific to magic, that kind of talk about those sorts of things. And I'm sure there are, but I got most of my information and the start on thinking about it from a book called Learn Magic by Henry Hay, which is actually still, that was a book that my grandfather had on his bookshelf when I was a kid. Available, it's not available in the original, you can find it used, but it's also available in a Dover reprint, I think, still. Learn Magic by Henry Hay, but that's more of a how to do magic.
Nah, sometimes the little tips you get from books like that are really valuable.
Yeah, but that book really was instrumental for me. I mean, it had a big influence on me. A number of things in there. Even, for instance, like there's a couple of drawings. I'm going to probably get this wrong. I don't have the book in front of me, but I think it was a coin. It had two drawings of a guy taking a coin from one hand to the other. So, you have a coin in your right hand and you take it with your left hand. And one of them, it's like if I did it sitting in my desk and no one was watching, it's a small movement. But then the second drawing was, the same guy was kind of turned like 3/4 to the audience, and he had his left hand palm up, or palm toward the audience, out away from his body, and his right hand bringing the coin up to that left hand. And it was just like, here's how to make this tiny little trick play for a larger audience. And, just how to broaden out your movements so that everything is a little bigger and makes more sense and is able to be seen by a group of people, at a distance. And so that's kind of what, that's kind of what I have done. All the tricks in my act are like kind of close-up magic tricks that you would do usually for a small group, but by the way I stage them and using these audience participation things, that, I've made those smaller tricks play for, 1,000 people at a time. So that book was very, very useful to me. That's all.
Oh, thanks for sharing. So if people wanted to find out more about you, where can they, where's your website, and do you have a Twitter account? A lot of people like to follow people that we have on the podcast on Twitter.
I do. I don't do as much tweeting as I probably should. Everybody says I should do more. It's at Mac King Show, the Twitter.
Okay, excellent.
So it's MacKingshow at Mac King Show, and on the web at MacKingshow.com.
Okay, excellent.
Lots of stuff. There's lots of videos and etc.
Perfect, Mac. I really can't thank you enough. I mean, a lot of the listeners don't know this, but you and I worked on getting a date that fit with your busy schedule and our busy schedule for, I think, 6 months.
I had to be somewhere and then couldn't do it. You had to be somewhere and couldn't do it. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out.
Me too. It really was excellent to get a chance to talk to you, and for anyone who hasn't seen your show, just to go check you out on YouTube at least and see some of the videos. And then all your shows are always out in Vegas now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a few more like public shows out away from Vegas. I'm starting to do a few of those. I just did a show at the small theater in Princeton, New Jersey, and then I've got a couple in Canada next year lined up. So I'm starting to do a few performing arts centers. Oh, I'm doing one later this year at Belterra Casino outside Cincinnati, Ohio. So, but most of the shows, I mean, I'm here at Harrah's Las Vegas 48 weeks a year, 2 shows a day, 5 days a week, and no plans to, stop that anytime soon. At least till 2015 is my current deal, and I think we're getting ready to re-up till 2018. So.
Excellent. Well, I wish you the best. I hope we get to talk to you again, and I really do appreciate you coming on the show today.
We should come see the show when we're in Vegas.
It's fun to talk to you guys.
Actually, that's true. We're going to be out in Vegas in July, August. We should come see you.
Oh yeah, please. Just drop me a note. I'd love to have you be my guest.
Harris,
that'd be really cool. Yeah. I want to see the thumb trick.
Yeah,
we want a special request.
Yeah, and just so you know,
I have of blood and vomit.
Yeah,
I was going to say I have a really low tolerance for vomit, so if we could keep that to a minimum, that would be awesome.
What? You have a low tolerance for vomit?
Less vomit?
Yes, I do.
Blood. Coming up.
More blood, please.
Yeah, more blood, less vomit.
Yeah,
if you can make my new motto.
If you can make your show similar to like a live Game of Thrones, you'd make Jordan happy.
There we go. All right. More blood and more sex.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Got it. Yeah, nailed it.
Awesome. Okay, well, maybe we'll see you in July or August, and
I hope I'll get to see you. That'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much again.
All right.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, guys. Thanks much.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Another great episode. I think Mac was awesome. We really enjoyed having him on the show. A lot of good stuff for us, and kind of impressed at how much being a comedic magician is similar to being a social engineer, just without all the laughs. On our part.
Or sometimes with laughs, as the case may be.
That's true. Yeah, sometimes with laughs, but less thumb cutting, for sure.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I mean...
Depends on the pretext, but yeah.
Yeah, the pretext. I am an official thumb cutter.
My Band-Aids are in there.
Yeah. We told one class we had in the UK, the group was ridiculously good. So we told them, come up with really out-the-wall pretexts and see if you can get people to question your pretext. Just say what you do for work, come up with something really crazy. So we had 2 more nights of homework when we challenged them to do this. One guy told everyone he was a donkey proctologist. A donkey proctologist. Doesn't even know what the heck. Mm-hmm. And he said nobody cared. Nobody asked. It's just crazy. No one cares about you. Another guy was a humpback whale dentist. And still nobody cared. Yeah. Yeah, stupid.
It's funny that they both chose veterinary specialties.
Yeah, that's true. A little weird, huh? Well, yeah. Whatever. They're British.
Suspicious. Because, theoretically, you should be a humpback whale dentist and a donkey proctologist.
At the same time.
A cat breeder. Not cat breeder. A cat, what is it?
Podiatrist?
Not podiatrist. Podiatrist, yeah. Cat podiatrist, and also, what is it when you... Yeah, pediatrician. That's what I was looking for.
Wouldn't they be different schools, though, like dealing with donkeys and dealing with whales?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Wow, this is way off topic. So, on that note, talking about proctology, Jordan, would you like to give a plug for your course?
Yeah, we have proctology boot camps. we have the Art of Charm boot camps sold out a few months in advance, but
are they still sold out?
Like 4 months in advance. Yeah. Because we're that good. Yeah. And we've got some seats. 1 seat left in August. A couple seats left in September. But yeah, we've revamped the curriculum a lot, and you go on mock dates and stuff during the class. But a lot of married guys have been coming through and using the curriculum. We tailor the field work and stuff like that, so it's not like your wife has to be like, "What are you doing over there?" and cry herself to sleep while you're here. We can make it useful for social engineers and people who just want to network for business and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun lately. It's been really, really good times, good students and stuff too, and a lot of guys coming through from the socialengineer.org podcast. So we love seeing those guys out here because we can. With the IT types, it's there's a lot of changes that come really quick because y'all spend a lot of time with computers and stuff, so the learning curve, a lot of people think, oh, it's going to be too hard for me because I spend too much time with the computer, but really it's easier to give somebody, it's harder to give somebody who's already sharp an edge, but we do that as well, don't get me wrong, but it requires more work on their part to get a little bit of an edge, like the extra 5%. But if you need like the first 35%, or 50% or whatever, that part's actually a lot easier because you come in like a blank slate. So, we love having guys from the show at the boot camps.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad that some of the listeners are taking advantage of that. That's kind of cool. Someday you'll have to offer them a discount for being awesome fans of the socialengineer.org podcast.
.org. Yeah. Perfect pitch. You got perfect pitch there, Chris.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm working on it. I'm trying to be more like you. If you want real music, though, you got to check out dualcoremusic.com. That's the guy who does our intro and outro music. Love that guy. He's a hacker at heart, a rapper at night. Hacker by day, rapper at night, something like that. Not really sure how that works. But he's got hack rapper. He calls it geekcore. Nerdcore. That's what he calls it. Nerdcore rap. So, a little strange, but we love the guy, so you can check him out. And, of course, with us, social-engineer.org or social-engineer.com is our corporate site. On Twitter, we're Human Hacker, or you can follow us on the corporate feed at SOC Engineer Inc. Freenode.net network, if you're on to IRC, you can check us out at social-engineer. I think that's about it. So, next month, we'll be out in Vegas. Good old sunny Vegas, ruining our lives and livers and lack of sleep. So we'll see you guys out there at DEF CON. Thanks for listening. See you there.
Thanks to all the folks who come to work with different landings. Max strike watermarks, all your ARF tags, but no one's really looking at my counterfeited badge. Even still, though, there's not a chance to see. You can tell by how I walk, I've got somewhere else to be. Cause I'm confident, like I'm in a hurry, like I've got work to do. Going places. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same, but for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm, no signal, my battery is finished. Hey, could I go and use your phone for a minute? Thanks, yo, I had to make a call to play it down while my rootkit exfilled your data to the cloud. Plan to stall, scan to Paul, gotta take my time scanning all your systems, the ones you didn't wipe. Scamming y'all, I got terabytes of drives. Cannonball in the dumpster when I dive. Black and white, all the info with the details, and what type of person really prints out emails. Still intact, all the sentences and questions. I mean, paper shredders really aren't that expensive. Yep, we want it all, the kit and caboodle. It's not that impressive, but just know how to Google. Found the CEO with the social network name, sir. Nope, it's dual core. We're just leveraging the framework. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same, but for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same, but for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. If you know what I'm saying. To this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same, but for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Know what I'm saying. Know what I'm saying. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying.